Guys, let's talk about this week's episode of Parenthood. And we had a little bit of follow up with what was going on between Julia and Joel and Ed last week. And Julia finally told Joel the truth that Ed did kiss her, and this did not sit well with Joel at all. Understandably, he was very upset. He, asked her, why would you think that that was not important to tell me when I asked you straight up, did something happen between the two of you? And she is literally trying to convince herself that nothing did happen, at least not from her side. And she keeps saying to him, I didn't think it was important because it didn't mean anything to me. And from my point of view, it didn't mean anything. And Ed may have misunderstood some things, and that is why he kissed me. And of course, Joel says to her, well, you knew how he felt about you. You guys had been texting each other back and forth. You had an emotional connection with this man, and then you went to his house, and you are just as guilty in all of this as he is. And I thought it was pretty important for him to point out, because Julia keeps trying to play this off as though Ed misunderstood everything that was going on, and I am not agreeing with that at all. She was just as emotionally involved in all of the conversations that the two of them had. And I'm not saying she led him on. I think that they both felt connected to one another, and as a result, this is what happened. And right at the beginning of the episodes, the mothers at the school are gossiping about her, and she confronts them and says, listen, if you want to know the truth, just ask me. I did not have an affair. I am not cheating on my husband. Me and my husband are fine. And she storms off. And the truth is that she has created a huge, huge problem now, and she has to deal with it. And by the end of the episode, she goes to Joel and she says to him, like, let's go for some counseling and let's try to fix what's going on. And he is just not having it. He's like, you want to fix what's going on when you are the problem. And I don't really agree with his response to this. I think it's more of a knee-jerk reaction. But the truth is that they have been having issues for a while, and they need to address all of them. And it's not just her fault, it's both of them. They need to be able to communicate far better than they have been. And they need to address the big elephant in the room. And hopefully, with some more consideration, Joel will change his mind and they will be able to get together with a counselor and work on their relationship. Because it's sad to see the two of them going through this. And I hope that they can make it work. So also going on this episode, we had Amber and Ryan sort of dealing with the aftermath of him deciding to go back to the army, or the re-enlist. And she was obviously very upset about this, and she didn't really even want to talk to him, but ultimately she heard him out, and she knows that he loves her. She knows that this isn't really what he wants to do, but this is sort of the only place that he feels maybe safe, that people understand him, that he's like other people that are like him. And, the grandfather was afraid that, she was going to blame him for this, which she didn't, but she was also very upset with him that he wanted her to kind of forgive Ryan, and she wasn't ready to do that. But ultimately, they worked it all out. Ryan is going back to the army, and she's just going to have to sort life out now on her own. I'm sure she'll be fine. I'm sure she'll go back to doing what she loves to do, which is playing music and working with the band, and, Amber will be just fine. Also, we had stuff going on with Sarah this episode. In the last episode, when she went to that dinner with Carl, she met a guy who was interested in possibly hiring somebody to take some photos of these surfboards or something like that was going on in this episode. And so she had a job interview. And of course, she doesn't think she's ready for it, and she doesn't know if she can handle such a big project. But of course, Carl's like, well, you will never know unless you try it. And the only reason why you don't think you can handle a big project like this is because you've never done a big project like this. So, Carl kind of helps boost her ego and build up her confidence. So she goes for this job interview, and she sees Hank there. And of course, Hank bombs this interview because Hank is Hank and he has no personality. And he's already telling the guy that, the way that they're going to handle all this isn't the way he envisions it. It's going to be this way. And, he's pretty much like, all right, thanks for coming. We'll get back to you. And when Hank sees Sarah in the lobby, he's like, what are you doing here? You're not qualified for this. You don't know how to do this job. You're barely just taking pictures of dogs. Da, 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 da. So he tries to not intimidate her, but he makes her feel horrible for the fact that she's going on the same job interview that he's going on. And he doesn't feel that she is in the same circle as he is in terms of established career. And he basically tells her. So later on in the episode, he apologized for it. And of course, she gets the job interview, and he chalks it up to the fact that she's hooking up with Carl. And she's like, listen, I got it on my own merits. But of course, she too doesn't feel that she necessarily has everything ready for this shoot. So she goes to him and asks for his help and asks if she can use some of his equipment. So, they're going to kind of work together on this project, and she's going to be the boss. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And, Hank is obviously still dealing with the fact that he thinks he's got some issues going on with him that have not been diagnosed over the years. So it'll be interesting to see what happens going forwards with this relationship between the two of them. Also, we had some stuff going on with Max, and more about the realization that their parents have to understand that, Max is going to start to lose friends that he's had over the years because Max is different than everybody else. And, one of his friends that he was good friends with, it was in a wheelchair, they're not friends anymore. And his friend likes to play basketball and he likes to do other things. And Max doesn't think that those things are cool or interesting. And he tells him, and so he loses him as a friend. And, the parents have to really understand that Max is going to have to, learn how to make new friends now. And even though he thinks Hank is his best friend, he needs to be able to make friends that are his own age. And I think his parents have to come to terms with that realization as well. So I think it was a good episode for them realizing that Max isn't just going to be able to have friends as he gets older because he had them when they were younger. Max is an odd individual, and teenagers are cruel, and they're starting to understand that they're going to also have to understand that, he's going to have to make new friends and see how that plays out for him as he goes forward in life. So, lots of little things going on. Then we had some funny stuff happening, of course, with, Crosby. Ugh, I always forget Crosby's name, and I don't know why, because I love him as a character on this show. So we had some interesting stuff going on with him and one of his bandmates, who was refusing to go back into the studio, and he was acting like a big baby, and so there were some good scenes between him and his wife and this guy, and he ultimately ended up going back to the studio. But Jasmine really helped him see that he has to face his fears and he has to go for things that he's nervous to do, and he can't just be comfortable with all the decisions he makes. He has to make uncomfortable decisions, and hopefully they will pay off for him in the at the grand scheme of things. So again, another good episode of Parenthood. So this thing with this show is it's a quiet show, it's a family show, and it's a different show than any other show that I watch on TV, and I can look at it in a different way than I look at other shows on TV. And I think that this show always does a good job at dealing with real human everyday emotions that happen with the dynamic of family and changing families and growing families. So again, a nice job. Zeke is still on his own. I'm sure that he's missing Millie very much. In last week's episode, I didn't talk about this, but she had the opportunity to go and stay another week. And, he was really upset about it. And he started to befriend another older gentleman. And, he made him realize that when people get older, most people don't want to do anything. They want to sit at home, they want to complain, and he should be lucky that he has a wife that is so energetic, that wants to do things and wants to learn about new cultures. And if he had the opportunity, he would jump at it in a heartbeat, and Zeke should do the same thing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when Millie comes back, which it looks like she'll be coming back in next week's episode, and everything that she learned while she was away and everything that maybe Zeke learned when she was away as well. So another good episode, not as big as the week before, but still some very important scenes happening in this week's episode. All right, guys, that's been my review. I'll see you next week. Bye.